Hi there, welcome. My name's Annalisa and this is Landa, and we're real life pet detectives, and we're on this afternoon to share a little bit about our work with search dogs. And if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them. So we want to start with a brief introduction. So my name is Annalisa and I am a real life pet detective. I've been working in the field for, 15 years this summer. And my business is Pet Search and Rescue. Currently, I have a team of 3 search dogs, I think. Hope, who is a healer mix. June is a foxhound. Faith is a bloodhound 4. And Rhodey, who is a Doberman Pinscher healer mix. And I specialize in using search dogs to help find lost pets and also doing consultations and coaching. I do those via email and also on the phone. And I have a lost dog recovery guide and a lost cat recovery guide, which you can get on Amazon and a few other websites, including my own, which is petsearchandrescue.com. And this is Landa Cold Iron.
Hi, I've also worked search dogs in Southern California for 15 years. I have a team of 3 bloodhounds and 1 Jack Russell, and my business is Lost Pet Detection, and we're really looking forward to talking with you and giving you some information about the search dogs, frequently asked questions, and again, if anyone has any questions after we're done, we'd love to answer them and chat with you about it.
Absolutely. And so we wanted to start today with talking a little bit about how we became pet detectives, how we got into doing this, and then some of the real common questions that we ask, or we were asked by people. I came into this, I rescued a little puppy at San Diego Animal Control, and she needed a job. And I found someone, Kat Albrecht, who taught people and still does that with missing animal response. And I took her course, and Landa was there. That's how we met. And Landa, how did you come to deciding to help people find their pets with search dogs?
Well, for once in my life, I was without a dog, and I was in a management job that I was not happy with. And I was in bed one day watching Animal Planet, and lo and behold, I saw Kat Albrecht working her bloodhound to find lost pets. And I said, well, that is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and that's what I have done since that day. And I found my soulmate dog, Ellie Mae, and we worked for a long time.
Yeah. So we wanted to go over some of the most commonly asked questions that we receive when people call us or meet us in our lectures that we give. So Landa, what is the most common question people ask you about the search dogs?
One of the most common questions is regarding multiple pet households. So in other words, someone has 4 cats and 2 dogs, and they don't have a scent article only for the cat that went missing. Well, believe it or not, scent is more individual than a fingerprint. That's amazing, isn't it? It does not blend in with other scent. So in other words, if all 4 cats laid on one bed the morning of the search, I simply would instruct the owners to have the other 3 cats that were still at the home crated or in a bedroom, and I would have my bloodhounds, Diana and Pepper Potts, smell the bed, and then they could go check out the cats that were in their crates, or they basically just need to sniff underneath the door. They don't need to go nose to nose with the cats at all. And they are advanced trailing dogs, and they've done this for a long time. So they know what pet to look for. And I know they're doing it because one time we had a case where there were 75 cats in a cattery, and one cat had gotten out, and there was a tiny little hair where the cat had gotten out. And so I had my dog sniff that hair, and we had a live walk-up find where they were able to find that one cat out of 77 cats in a cattery.
Wow, that's amazing. That was really amazing. So scents are more individual than a fingerprint, and they don't blend. It's not like paint that you mix together. You have blue and yellow and you mix and you get green. They each are individual scents, and we train with the search dogs in multiple pet households. Now, some search dogs are trained differently than that, and they have to have a scent specific article that is not with other pets mixed in. And that has to do with how you train and work the dog. But right from the beginning, we work in situations with people who have multiple pets, and our search dogs get used to doing that pretty early on in their training. Now, what about, one of the questions I'm asked all the time is, does rain wash away scent?
I get that a lot also. Well, believe it or not, in a Hollywood movie it would, but this is not a Hollywood movie. No, rain does not wash away scent. In fact, it can enhance or preserve it. Now, of course, if you have a torrential downpour for 2 weeks, it will wash away scent. But the light rains we get around California for 3 or 4 days will not wash away the scent, in my experience with my bloodhound.
Right. And some of it has to do with back to how the dog is trained. So if your pet is lost in a blizzard, you want a search dog that's trained to search in blizzards or in that weather condition. If you have a pet that's lost in downtown Los Angeles, you want a dog that's had some experience and training in a real urban city setting, versus if your pet went missing in a cornfield, you want a search dog that has that experience in big open areas. So it really comes down to training and their experience, what they're used to. But rain does not wash away scent. Now, it may displace it. So if you have a rainfall and water rushes into, let's say, the gutter on the street, there will be scent, or there could be scent there versus on the sidewalk. So it might displace it, but not displace it 2 miles away from where the scent originally was laid or put. Scent is more like dust than a chalk line or a pen line. So it will move around based on wind conditions and weather conditions. But again, it's not going to be a mile away in a normal scenario of a lost pet. Something people ask us also about the terrain. How does the terrain influence your search, or what the search dogs can do, Landa?
Well, terrain can greatly influence the scent. People don't really understand. It's taken 15 years for Annalisa and I studying scent work, and even we don't know a lot of, we don't know everything about it. We know a lot about it. So scent can pool, it can eddy, it can flow, it can be dispersed. Mm-hmm. It's not footstep to footstep when we're following the pets. The trailing dogs use a combination of the terrain, the wind. The scent will cling to moist bushes and trees and up against homes. So there is a lot going on with scent. It's better to work the search dogs in the morning because scent will be on the ground. As the sun comes up and the day gets warmer, scent will come up into the air, and it will be harder for the search dogs to work a scent.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah. So what about it when people contact you and about how long the pet has been missing? Because I get asked that a lot. My pet's been missing for so many days or a week, and can you use the search dogs? Now, I want to go back to that different dogs are trained differently and work different scenarios. Our dogs are trained in many ways similar to how a dog would be if there was a missing person, but it's also very different. So we're talking about pets, not people. And obviously when a person goes missing, the police come out right away. And the first 24, 48 hours is critical in a missing person case. But it's different with a lost pet, especially because if you imagine like an outside cat or an indoor cat could be hiding next door. And so there still might be scent very fresh weeks after a pet went missing, after you saw the pet, because they're hiding nearby. So some of that, you want to keep that in mind. And also it has to do with how the search dogs are trained. And we train and work the dogs and have had walk-up finds a minimum of 2 weeks after the pet has gone missing. And we've had success with that. We've even had success longer than that. Now, in human search and rescue, 2 weeks is the longest documented case of a walk-up find with the search dogs. And so that would be what, the common wisdom in the search and rescue community would advise. And so we adhere to that. We have had walk-up finds, found evidence longer than that, but it really depends on the case details. So I'll inject at this point, if you have a lost pet and you want some feedback as to if the search dogs can be a help in your case potentially, please do call us or reach out to us. So my website is petsearchandrescue.com and Landa is lostpetdetection.com. And we are happy to answer questions and talk with people about their particular case details. So Landa, what about when someone contacts you? Let's just go over one or two things in specific to lost cats or lost dogs. When someone contacts you about a lost cat case, what are some of the factors that make a search easier or more challenging when it's a cat?
Well, with the cat, I always ask how long the cat has been missing. If the cat is indoor only versus outdoor access. I like to look at the terrain around the area. I ask if there's predators in the area. I ask about the cat's personality. A lot of people think that someone has picked up the cat, and then when I really ask them, well, is your cat the type of cat that's going to allow someone to pick them up and walk away with them? They're like, well, no, not really. So there's a lot that goes into lost cat versus lost dog.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I always say that the number one tip I would give people with a lost cat is not to give up. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. We've had cats that have been found weeks or months later. We have many stories about that, and I just know that they're survivors on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Most people give up at about 2 weeks, and that's when you need to be pushing even harder to find the pet.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Now, what about dogs? What's your number one tip, or what do people do wrong when they're searching for a lost dog?
Well, usually they're looking too close to home.
Mm-hmm.
It does depend, a Yorkshire Terrier puppy that suddenly disappeared from the front yard in the middle of the night versus a pit bull that went missing in an urban area. So we're looking at the terrain, we're looking at the areas, we're looking at the scenarios, we're looking at the pet, the personality, the temperament, the population density. Again, there's a lot that really goes into a lost dog and cat, but most people are looking too close to home with a lost dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I say sometimes it's like people think we still live in the town of Mayberry and Andy Griffith is gonna pick up their pet and have it down at the jail and that sort of thing. And we live in really big, large communities, and people can drive an hour commute each day to work. So of course they can pick up a pet and transport it way out of the search area. That's for sure. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and another tip is that don't think that everybody knows. I know Annalisa and I, many times when we go on cases, the owners tell us, well, everybody knows the pet is missing. Well, when Annalisa and I really get into the search efforts, many times we find out the next door neighbor does not have any idea that the pet is missing.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to assume that everybody knows, because I guarantee you everybody does not know the pet is missing.
There's always more that can be done with
Always.
witness development, and also in a search. There's always more that can be done. People want to know also, when should they give up looking for their pet? So if 2 weeks is too soon to give up, when do you think they should give up?
Well, I think everybody has to make that decision in their own heart. It depends on many factors. Again, is it your soulmate dog or cat? Is it too hard to keep searching? It's called grief avoidance.
Mm-hmm. How long the pet's been missing, and any clues that you might have. If you haven't found the pet, but you have 50 clues pointing towards some way, then you might decide to take that as evidence. But we're always going to be ones to recommend continuing searching and to looking for evidence and proof of some particular outcome before giving up, especially if something negative has happened. But many times people assume something negative has happened and it hasn't, and they give up way too soon, as we already talked about. Yeah. Now, before we open it up to see if there's any questions that anybody might have, what about scent articles? So we talked about that you can't have multiple pets, or you can have multiple pets with scent articles, but what are good scent articles for how you've trained your search dogs? Again, everybody is different in how they train their dogs, but what do you use and what do you find as a good scent article?
I think the bed hair of the actual pet would be good. The bedding, the collar, the leash, the drapes the pet have laid on or rubbed up against. Cats will like do the rubbing technique with their facial area. A lot of animals are on the bed. Anything.
So for your dogs, does it have to be like something you can pick up? Like you said, if they're rubbing against something, so you can use like a wall?
Well, you can, yes, because we take our little gauze pad and we swipe the wall, or we swipe the scent article and take that with us for the dogs to smell.
Mm-hmm. And what are scent articles you don't train your dogs on, or you don't like to work with?
Well, animal fur, like rabbit, sheepskin.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people have sheepskin,
right.
So I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of anything?
Well, let's say something that has food on it already.
Food.
So like a food bowl would be not the best scent article. Maybe a water bowl would be okay, but the
cat
food
litter.
Bowl, cat litter is not a good scent article for us. Nothing like that, because the scent is going to be different chemically from how the pet smells on the outsides. So that's what we want, is a good scent article. Collar, toy bedding, or where the pet laid, even on the carpet or a hardwood floor, there's still scent there. So what other questions you can think of that are frequent questions that we want to go over?
Well, I think there's a disconnect nowadays with people and the flyers with their pets.
Or thinking they've posted online and that everybody knows about a pet. Online is a great tool and resource in a search, but you can't think that you've done that and that everybody knows about the pet.
Yes, nowadays, we've done this for about 15 years and everyone keeps using the little 8.5 by 11 flyers. Do they ever work? Of course. But in this day and age, you really have to capture people's attention. And we like going with personally at this point of my search career, I like giant banners. You can home make them from the Dollar Tree.
Good tip.
I don't even like fooling around with the giant posters anymore. I like doing the giant banners, or a car banner on your car, or writing on your car, something extreme.
When would you use a flyer?
To hand out to people that maybe have had a sighting, or your neighbors, or at a local business down the street, or a pet store, or dog walkers maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's a waste of money, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like to shrink the flyers. So in other words, they do 8.5. I like to go really big or really small. You could do business card size. You could do quarter panel flyers. Again, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, those are really good. Those are really good points, for sure. And it's okay if things look homemade, right?
Yeah.
So I just saw a news article that was online that was saying that some people thought that really professional looking pet flyers and pet signs, lost pet signs, it had to be a scam because they look too professional. Yeah. So one thing is to make it look homemade. Have your kids help with you, make a big banner, big poster. You can hang it on your garage, put it on your car, hang it on a fence of a neighbor that you get permission to hang, especially for dogs and roaming dogs that are lost away from home. It has to be on your to-do list, for sure. For sure. What are some things that you would not do if it was your lost pet? What about people who throw kitty litter outside? What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know of any scientific study that's been done where that helps. I think kitty litter could attract other animals. I've heard people will spray urine to attract the dog or the cat. I've not seen any scientific study. I don't recommend that, especially if you're going to use a search dog, because urine, that is one thing that will throw off the scent, is urine.
Yeah. And certain chemicals, petroleum for sure.
I wouldn't use urine anywhere.
It has too much of a risk, of a possible risk. And limited, we don't really know all of the possible benefits. Now that's different than putting out a scent article, which really probably has no harm to it if you put your stinky undershirt outside for your dog or your cat. And that has a lot of anecdotal evidence from hunters would use that to find their hunting dogs when they got separated. But that's different than taking your cat's litter and spraying it around a mile radius, which we've had people do, and we just wouldn't suggest doing it. And there seems to be no correlation between that and getting the pet back. So, any last closing words before we answer questions, Landa? If anybody has any questions, any closing words about the search dogs or about resources or about what you would advise people with a lost pet?
Well, I always like to remind people that 10 million pets go missing a year, and it's very preventable. They have GPS units now. You know, check the fence line. If you have a big party, keep your pets crated. Don't let the gardeners just have keys and randomly come in and out. Don't give your pet to a pet sitter that you don't know, or a cousin's boyfriend. It's very preventable, and it doesn't seem that the numbers are decreasing even after 15 years. And that really ties up the shelter and the euthanasia rate.
Right. There are consequences when you lose your pet. There are consequences. There's a ripple effect. For example, people get into car accidents because they're swerving to avoid roaming dogs and cats. You know, again, your pet could be at the shelter taking a place from a pet that really needs it because they don't have an owner. So it's really up to us to make sure that we have ID tags on our pets at all times, even if they're indoor only pets. And we can talk about that. There's resources if you're worried about your pet's collar getting snagged. But you have a much higher risk of losing a pet than that happening, just so you know. So keeping our pets safe. Don't leave small pets outside unattended ever.
Day or night.
Day or night, it is not safe. And you think, oh, my neighborhood is safe. Things happen. So many emergencies and disasters happen. It is not worth the risk. Small pets stay inside or outside with supervision only. But those are some things you can do preventative-wise. So on that note, we're really happy to be here, and this is our first Zoom together. I'm excited that we're here, our first video chat where Landa and I are together. We train together, we work together, and we met 15 years ago at Missing Animal Response. Back then it was called Pet Hunters, and we met at the training. So we're here together 15 years later and happy to be sharing about how we use search dogs to help find lost pets. And I see we have somebody on, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Wendy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Wendy.
Thank you for tuning in.
Hi, beautiful ladies.
Hello. Have we met before?
No.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it's nice to meet you. Do you have a lost pet?
Yes, I have a lost cat.
Okay. We're all over it. Okay, tell us everything.
So I have a lost cat. He's been missing, so it's been a little over a year. Prior to, we lived in a home and I moved into an apartment. So I had two cats at the time, two brothers who never went outside, only indoors only. We moved, and I moved 100 miles away from where our house was into an apartment. They were transferred by a box. So it's not like they're in a box with and so they were in the house. We weren't here more than 3.5 weeks when I noticed that Bolt, one of the brothers, was missing. And I did everything. I did the flyers. People told me about the litter box. I've done everything, and flyers. I'm all over Facebook.
Can I ask you a couple questions just so we have a good profile?
Yes.
Sure. So can you tell us what city and state that your cat went missing in?
Oceanside, California.
Okay, got it. And in Oceanside, there's a lot of different types of terrain. So there's apartment buildings real densely, there's neighborhoods with apartment buildings, there's industrial, there's busy streets, there's canyons, there's more rural type areas, there's railroad tracks, beach areas. So give us a little idea of where you moved, what the immediate terrain is like. Houses, apartments, what's the area like?
So my area, I'm next to a busy intersection, and off to that, I'm in an apartment building, and then aside from me are homes.
And do they have crawl spaces underneath, or are they solid foundation? Do you know?
Well, not here in the apartment complexes, but like in the houses, there's some that are on the on the hills.
Mhm.
That's they have areas where they can go under.
Have you identified any feral cat colonies in the area?
Yes.
Okay, well, statistically, that is where your cat has ended up, at a feral cat colony at this length of time at a year. That would be, to me, top 3 priority where your cat. So to me, if it were my cat, I would go on Amazon and get a wildlife camera for $40, and you can put it at the feral cat colony. You can scope it out during the day, and if you can hide it without it getting seen, stick it out in the evening, pick it up in the morning. It takes pictures all night long of the cat activity. So to me, that would be a real inexpensive, it's really your eyes and ears. Area.
Have you used a wildlife?
That's a good idea. So I used my cell phone. My grandsons, they use my cell phone to record, and the cats that come around they're dark in color, and there's like 4 or 5 of them. And then when I would put the belongings out front of my door, the sense for Bolt to come home, all those cats came and sprayed my door. They sprayed the wall. They sprayed my window.
Right. So Wendy, what you have going on is you have a lot of cats in the territory and potentially some dominant cats, and they will literally chase your cat away and not let your cat come back to that area, that territory. And there's nothing you can really do about that. That's the neighborhood dynamics and the neighborhood cats. So maybe your cat isn't at the nearest cat feeding area or the cat colony, but maybe had to go further away because of these dominant cats. So you want to expand your search radius. I would say you should probably be at 2,200 feet or bigger. 2,200 would be like a minimum, I would say, and it'd be a good start. And so what you would do is you'd want to go around and see where there's feral cat activity or a cat colony, and if you can, in that 2,200 radius, you'd want to see if you see like just groups of cats, if you can find out who's feeding the cats, make friends with them, offer to donate some cat food to their maintaining the cat colony that they're doing. And then like Landa said, put out a wildlife camera and put it out for 3 to 7 nights, see what activity you get, and then you would just move the camera to the next feeding station that is out there. So you'd move the camera after a few days until you covered that 2,200 foot radius, because after a year, your cat has to find a food source and a water source.
It's got its territory now.
So it's established its territory. So the most important thing to a cat is their territory first, and it's finding safe hiding places, water source, and food source. So at this point, your cat has had to do that in one way or the other. Does that make sense?
That does. The cats that are here the cats here are all dark, very black, and I guess you call it calico. So my cat is an orange tabby. He's orange and white. He's overtly friendly, and so he missing December 21st, 2018. I have not stopped looking. I go to the shelters once a week. I'm all over the Facebook groups. People have been wonderful here in Oceanside helping me, and far and wide. I don't know if there's possibility a maintenance person took him, because I went from being in a home to an apartment.
Right.
So
your cat is considered displaced, and so they can get further away than people would think. That's one of the problems with doing like a cookie cutter recommendations or cookie cutter suggestions that you might get on the internet, is that people say, well, this is what happens when this happens. But displaced animals are much more erratic and unpredictable than a pet that's, than a pets that lost from a home location. And how old is your cat?
So he would be 5 now.
Well, if you think someone has him, you could offer a specific reward at this time. Offer $500 Or I would do a giant banner, lost 1 year, and get a giant blow up picture of your cat. And if you live at a busy intersection, then, you know, maybe you could find a place to hang the banner, or somewhere around that area.
Now, is your cat friendly with strangers, or more shy and skittish?
No, he's overly friendly, overly.
So someone could have picked him up. They could.
Or maybe he would go up to someone after a while after he was hungry, you know?
Oh, yes.
The
Yeah.
problem is though that, you know, people generally, when they see a cat, they think it's somebody else's pet.
Yeah.
So they are less likely to intervene than, like, if a dog is roaming and somebody sees a little poodle, then they intervene. So you don't know, that's out of your control. Someone who, you know, like us, who knows, oh, it could be a lost pet, you know, you don't know if that's the kind of person who intervened, or if somebody, you know, people assume that everybody likes pets, but not everybody is a pet lover. So your cat could have gone into somebody's backyard who's not a pet lover. They're not going to do anything bad, but they're not going to take it in. So especially since it's been a year and you haven't had any news, I would do something pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
And
dramatic.
so we're recommending 2 or 3 different things. We're recommending you need to go onto a map like Google Maps and look at 2,200 foot radius from
Okay.
blocks, I think, depending on the area.
about 10 blocks. And then you need to go drive or walk up and down that whole radius, and go up and down each street and identify feral cat colonies or feeding areas where you see cats, where you see cat food on the ground, where you see empty cat containers like somebody's feeding them. Maybe reach out to the rescue community or the local vet and see if they know of any active feral cat colonies in the nearby community. And you need to reach out to that person. So first it's to identify. Second,
Okay.
to reach out to the people who are feeding or maintaining. It might be somebody who lives by, it might be somebody who drives there, and you know, network with them. The third thing is to get a wildlife camera and place it out at these locations for 3 to 7 nights, and then you move it to the next location and see if you get any orange tabbies. And then the fourth recommendation is that you put out a giant banner. So we're talking about, what do you think, 4 feet by 7 feet, or 4 feet by?
Yeah, they're usually 4 by 6.
4 by
Like
6
a Dollar
feet.
Tree.
You can do a homemade one, or you can have one professionally made, put at your, you know, where you live or as close as you can get to it. And if possible, offering a specific reward with a giant blow up picture, and state clearly that your cat's been missing 1 year. So that you get, you know, some, maybe generate some leads or some interest at this point, because you really do need also other people's eyes and ears.
You need a community at this point.
At this
which
point.
it sounds like you've had, but you can re-up the search effort.
Yeah. The last recommendation we're going to give you, Wendy, and by the way, we'd like to offer you our Lost Cat Recovery Guide free. So we'll give you our info, and then if you would like us to email you that, then you can reach out to us after the Zoom, and we can send it to you. But the last recommendation that we're going to make is that is there in Oceanside, is there a local newspaper that covers the area?
I'm unaware of. I can look into that.
Yeah, look and see if there's a local newspaper that is, you know, Oceanside newspaper. Maybe it's particularly for local businesses, a free newspaper that people put out at restaurants, you know, something like that, or a regular newspaper that covers the area. And I suggest that you reach out to them and see if they're interested in doing a story about how you moved to the area a year ago and your cat went missing and you're still looking. Sometimes local news media will be looking for unique stories, and you have shown that you love your cat, and it's quite, you know, a community interest piece that they might want to do with a picture of your cat. And maybe it's not in print, but maybe it's online, and they might have a lot of readers or viewers on the internet. And so that might be another way that you can reach out to people specifically in Oceanside.
That's a great idea. Because I do have a
Usually
lot.
you can still find your pet or find out what happened. A year is definitely not a deal breaker.
Your cat did not disappear into thin air. Aliens didn't pick up your cat and take it away.
He's displaced at a feral cat colony. I pretty much be will. That would be a very high statistic, a very high probability.
Right. So don't give up. Be persistent. So let me give you, do you have a pen and paper, Wendy, so I can give you our info and then we can connect to send you our guide?
Okay, one.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
And I would like to remind people that I have a real good Instagram account at the Bloodhound Handler. Very easy to remember. So hopefully everyone will click
On
in.
Instagram.
On
Yeah,
Instagram.
You're on Instagram.
At the Bloodhound Handler.
And I'm at Pet Search and Rescue.
And again, our website, lostpetdetection.com.
And petsearchandrescue.com are our websites. So,
We've got a lot
Okay, I'm ready.
of information.
okay, Wendy, do you prefer to text or email?
Either, whichever is
Okay,
easier for you.
How about email?
Okay.
Okay, so you can email me at A as in apple, B as in boy, E as in elephant, R as in run, N as in north, S as in south, at hotmail.com. So ABERNS at hotmail.com, and just put in the subject your name or Lost Cat in Oceanside, and I'll remember, and I'll email you our Lost Cat Recovery Guide. And what's really helpful about the guide is that it shows you pictures of the techniques we're talking about, pictures of how clients have done them, how we've done them.
Stories, other stories of people that have lost their pet for long amounts of time and what happened from there. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Visuals, tips, tricks. There's actually a list of over 100 things that you can do to locate your cat. So you might want to, that's on pages 8, 9, and 10. So you actually want to go and print that out and start going through the list. Maybe give some of your friends a couple things to do. It's there's a lot you can do.
Right, and that'll be a good checklist for you, Wendy, because you can see what you've done already and other ideas, thinking outside the box, what you can still do. And on the other side of it, you can look at in the guide, oh, I already did this, but let me look at the pictures and see if that's actually lines up with what the pet detectives would do. So you can use it as a little analysis of your search. But I guarantee you there'll be a lot of things on the list that you can still do. And you know, you start off when you have a lost pet with high probability actions, which you've done. You did that. You did a really good job with that, obviously. But then once you go through those things, you have to start eliminating some lower probability action items. And you never know. Sometimes there's one of those that's an easy thing, and that's how you get success.
Yeah.
I worked a cat case consulting a cat lost in San Francisco. And I'll share this story and then we'll wrap up. But a lost cat in San Francisco, and I told the people to do all the high probability things, a full analysis. They did everything, and they were following up with me. I said, okay, well, we need to start going through the list and going to some of the lower probability things. And down on the list was one suggestion, and it was to do mailer or postcards. And it's not something we recommend on the top of the list because one postcard goes to one house. You only reach one person, and it can be expensive. Well, they went ahead and did that, and it just so happened that a shut-in, a retired elderly couple who never left the house, they had somebody deliver their food, they had home health care workers, but they never left the house, so they never saw flyers, posters, or anything else. They got the postcard in the mail, and the cat had been living in their backyard. So sometimes
you never know where a connection is going to be made. I tell people that, and you just never know where a connection is going to be made.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you start with the high probability things, and then you just keep, you know, going down the list. And if you have a small budget, you do the things that you can, and then you know you try to get leads and eyewitness sightings, and find out where there's feral cat colonies that you can target. So thanks so much, Wendy.
Thank you.
This has been helpful.
Thank you, ladies.
Absolutely. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I'll be emailing you the guide. And once you take a look at it, feel free to send me any questions back. We're glad to help. We want everybody
Fantastic.
to find their pets.
We do.
We're animal lovers. Both of us have lost pets multiple times. We don't want to admit it sometimes.
We found them.
We found them. So we want to help everybody get their pet back safe. So
Thank
have
you
a great
again.
day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.